Hello everybody and welcome to Purgatory Ironworks. My name is Trenton Ty and man do I have an awesome show for you guys today. So over the past few weeks we have been doing ironwork from a book called Colonial Ironwork, and it's pictures of something known as the Sorber Collection. This is an incredible book. If you don't have it in your library, you need it as a blacksmith. But we've been picking different items from that to do here in the shop. And today we're going to be doing a boot scrape, which was an extremely common piece of hardware back in the day. You don't see them so much anymore now. But very simply, it's 3 pieces of iron. There are 2 uprights, and there's a bar across the middle of it so that you can actually put your boot on there and scrape most of the mud off of the boot. Now, many of the pieces that I have seen have the 2 uprights. They're usually driven down into the wood, and they have that bar that's riveted in between. But a lot of the pieces that are in the Sorber collection aren't riveted, they are forge welded. So keeping in line with the idea of we're going to make everything as difficult as possible, we're going to actually forge weld this piece together. Again, it's pretty simple. We're going to have 2 uprights. We're going to do some little squirrely doodles on the top of them just to make them fancy. And we're going to forge weld in that blade. We're going to be using some 3/8 square stock for the uprights, and we're going to use some 1 inch by 1/4 for the actual scrape itself. So we're going to heat the scrape up. I'm going to make sure and kind of sharpen one edge a little bit. Remember, when you're doing good iron work, make sure and leave no factory finish. So that's what we're going to do now. Let's fire it up and get to work. So guys, again, I don't have any particular measurements. We're just doing this from a photograph. So we're going to use the swag method, the scientific wild ass guess on exactly the dimensions that we're going to be after. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here. I'm going to scarf that edge, and for a boot scrape I'm going to give it about maybe 6-7 inches there in the middle. I'm going to break all the edges, and of course this is going to be 2-sided. Just want to ding that up pretty well. But that leading edge, the actual scrape side, I'm going to thin just a tad bit. I thought about bringing on down to something a little bit sharper, but I don't think that's necessary. So she's good and dinged up. What I'll do now is I'll come in and I'll probably make myself a cut right here and scarf that edge, and that will be simply it. All right, we got a good heat there. And for those of you saying my heat's not centered, you get out here in the Georgia heat. All right, I'm gonna go scarf this side. And she's pretty much ready to go. Now, I am going to do something rather interesting here in just a second. Where I have thinned these guys, I am actually going to punch a 1/4 inch hole in here. Now, it is not for a rivet, but we do need to pin this thing into place. So let's have a powwow at the other camera. So again, in the shop, I actually take a lot of cheats when I'm doing my work because as a production blacksmith, time is absolutely money. Several of these pieces I have seen, almost all of them have been properly forge welded. If they didn't, they actually had 2 rivets in there. But even if they were forge welded, normally what would happen is they had to hold them in place somehow. If you didn't have a buddy there in the shop, you could absolutely put a small quick rivet in there and then forge weld over that rivet. What we're going to do is something similar, but to save myself all that time of riveting, I'm going to pop a hole into the top of this piece, and then I'm going to do what's called a plug weld. Now, this is a technique that's used a lot in the automotive industry, and it's where you actually cut a hole in the top piece of metal and weld through to the bottom, and the metal flows up and joins the 2 pieces. It's almost like a spot weld. The reason I'm going to have to do that on this piece is because I want to hide that modern weld. If I put that weld anywhere around this outside, it's going to be seen. The forge weld will not cover it. I can't even put it on the back side because it's going to be obvious that there's a modern weld there. However, if I plug weld it, I'm actually going to be hammering right on top of that plug weld, and it should be damn near invisible. And that's going to save me a good 15 minutes between drilling and punching and riveting that would otherwise just be wasted. So we're going to pop a hole in that, and now we're going to make our uprights, and then we'll put everything together. All right, here's our 3/8 inch square bar. Now, I am absolutely not going to go nuts with this thing. I'm going to pull a taper, and we're going to give it a little bit of a roll. We're just going to make it pretty. and then we'll cut it in length. So there's our taper. Notice it's not a pointed taper, it's a flat taper. And we're going to freehand a scroll. You know what that means, don't you? It's going to look like doo-doo. The harm I must cause to OCD people watching this channel. Good enough for government work. I'm going to put myself a mark on the anvil, so after I roll the other piece, I have some sort of understanding on how long this piece needs to be. I'll put myself a mark there, and we're going to cut it right there. Heat's in the right place this time. And now, very efficiently, we've still got enough heat to make our taper. Put everything down and out of the way. I'm going to come in and break those factory edges. Rough her up a little bit. And I think she is good to go, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's do it one more time. All right, let's make a flat taper, just like we did last time. And again, you know, I'm going against every OCD bone. I don't have a scroll iron, so we're just making it happen. Is this one going to match the other one? Nope. Not even close. That one turned out way better than the other one, actually. All right, let's take my measurement here. We'll make ourselves a mark, cut it, and pull the point. Look at that, didn't drop any of it this time. Another 20 years, I may be good. Look at that, heat's off center to damn good. Okay, there's our two pieces. That's not terrible bad. Going to be close enough. And now we're going to take our crossbar. You can see the holes I've got in here. We're going to spot weld them in and then ever so carefully weld that joker into place. Now you can see it's only 1/4 of an inch, so that weld is going to be relatively light. So I'm going to have to be gentle with it. But what should happen is that it should fill that hole, and once we hammer it just a little bit, it should pretty much be invisible. Even another smith looking for it shouldn't be able to see it easily. All right, guys, I want to show you that tack before we get in there. Now you can see it's not even completely centered. Again, I'm leaving all the warts and boogers in for you guys to understand what you can get by with. But that piece right there should hammer in and pretty much become almost impossible to see. Now I say that, and I hate to say that before I actually do it, so I leave myself some wiggle room, but we're going to go for it, and we're going to see how bad a liar I am when I'm done. Now, adding to the trickiness of all this, we have two different thicknesses of metal, which is going to require a little bit of extra attention to bringing up to the forge welding heat. Full disclosure, I rarely weld pieces of metal that are this off matched as far as thickness. I usually try to get it to a match situation. It just makes everything a little bit easier. So I am well outside of my comfort zone with this particular weld. So any advice I'm giving to myself, I give to you, and it's the fact that I'm going to sneak up on that temperature. I'm going to rotisserize it and go very slowly until I get to the right heat, and then give it the tippy taps, and then come back with a heavy weld. All right, we've got a decent heat here. We're going to turn that just a little bit. There's the tippy taps. You did not see that weld was misaligned before I started hammering on it. You saw nothing. A little bit more flux. and we're gonna see if we can't pull this up to a full welding heat. All right, I got a good hiss. And boys and girls, I think we've got ourselves a decent forge weld. Okay, let's flip it around and let's do the other side. Now again, I caution you, if you're doing these types of forge welds, do not drop that joker into the water immediately. Let it cool, because it's still a weld line, and if your weld isn't great, dropping it in that cold water can absolutely cause it to come loose. So be mindful. Guys, real quick, I want to show you again what we've got here. There is the other plug weld. That's actually a better plug weld than the other one, but just to show you guys what we're starting with. All right, we're going to hit it with the magic sprinkles. Okay, looking good there. And we're going to bring it up to our first light heat and give her the tippy taps. Now, as a general rule, when you're doing dissimilar thicknesses, one of the things that I do is I put the heaviest side down into the fire, because it's going to need the most heat to bring it up to the forge welding temperature. What will happen is, once I know that that side is good and hot, I will flip it over for a few seconds and heat the thinner side. That way you have a more even distribution of the heat. If you leave the thin side down, it's going to heat and melt before the top side even gets hot enough to fuse. All right, we are at a light heat, and this is just to consolidate and just get any gaps out of there. If we get a little tack out of it, that's great, but now we'll go for the proper heat. We've got a little bit of hiss. And just for safety, I'm going to go back one more time, take one more heat very quickly, and we're going to do that one more again. All right, I got a good solid heat. I think she's good to go, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give that just a little bit of tip out, and look at that. That looks pretty darn good. Now, real quick, I want to point out some things that you can get away with. When you guys saw those tack welds, not everything was aligned. It wasn't perfectly 90 degrees. Understand, with metal, that's one of the great things. You can get away with so much, and just by a little bit of adjustment, looks pretty darn good. And remember, most people are never going to have their face this close to your item. Most of the time, people are going to see this from 10 and 15 feet away. So there's a lot you can get away with. Now, there's no excuse for good quality work, and you need to practice good craftsmanship. But one thing that I have found that has hindered so many people is because we are used to a society where you can go to the store and go, on the West Coast, buy a 1/4-inch nut and it fits a 1/4-inch screw on the East Coast. When you do blacksmithing, a lot of this woodworking, if you're going to advance quickly and get the things that you need, sometimes you have to back off of that OCD a little bit and just get it done. For me, when I started, oh, buddy, it had to be perfect, it had to be straight, and I'm going to tell you, it hindered my education in blacksmithing. So now I get to make doo-doo. I'm going to throw her right here. I'm going to make sure and put my stamp the right side up this time. There is the Trenton Tie 100% gluten-free mark of approval, and she's looking pretty darn good. So again, I'm going to let her cool naturally. Don't throw this joker in the water while there's still color on her. Let her cool slowly, and then we're going to clean her up and take a look. Okay, guys, so here's the proof in the pudding. There is one side. Now, there's a plug weld right there in the middle, and I'm going to tell you, if somebody brought me this piece of ironwork right now, I'd have a very difficult time saying whether that had been plug welded or not. I'm going to show you the other side. You can see the same thing. Forge weld's good, she's good and tough, but that little plug weld has disappeared. Now, one trick that I use, now you say, well, if you're doing that to save time, you're already having to drill something, well, that may be the case, but I actually have a bench mounted punch that punches those 1/4-inch holes for me. So it's literally, I punch it, tack it, probably in less than 30 seconds. So this is a huge time saver, and I'm going to tell you, it's freaking invisible. Folks, here is our boot scrape, and I am pretty stoked with this. If there's one thing that I need to tell you is that don't be overly concerned making everything perfect. You are going to trip yourself up. Get out there and do it. Even at 25 years, I have left in all the bloopers. You guys see me swearing at things. You guys see me dropping things. Like this past couple of videos, every time I've gone to cut something that I didn't want to cut all the way off, said, Pshew! It was like I was on a freaking shooting range. These things happen, and they happen to the best of us, and all you can do is just get out there and do it. Now, hopefully as we go forward, I'm going to do some more professional pieces, but I'm going to tell you, but it's in the non-professional world where you're going to learn how to do good work. Does it work? I don't know. We're going to try it. We're going to blow it up if we don't. That's the attitude to have. Do not concern yourself with perfections to the point that you can't get utility done, because that's pretty awesome. I don't care who you are. That's a double forge weld with some janky curls, but that is freaking awesome. I can put that beside my door and scrape my boots. It works. And at the end of the day, that's what the blacksmiths were concerned with. Did it work? And that should be your guiding light. But I got one more thing to say. Hello everybody. If you're watching this, that means that it is November, the end of November, or the 1st of December, your time. However, I am filming this all the way back in July. It is the end of July, and this week actually marks just over a month since we decided to restart the channel. Yes, that means that all the videos that you've been watching these past couple months were filmed in the summer. This is the end, technically the end of our season. We wanted to put together enough videos to carry us through the end of the holidays, because of course in October we have a lot of our traveling coming up, where we actually make our living during the year, and we wanted to make sure that no matter where we were or what we were doing, that we had video content for you guys. And so what has happened is, for the first time, absolutely the first time in the history of the channel, we have a backlog of videos, and it's awesome, and it's just super fantastic. And now that we've come to the end of it, I want to take a little bit of an outro. Now again, we're going to be filming some Patreon updates. We're still going to be filming a lot of the behind the scenes content for you guys on Patreon. There will be some shorts that'll be coming out there on YouTube. But in general, as far as our big filming, the actual work in the shop, yeah, all this has been filmed in less than a month. And I have to say, this is all due to the new fantastic Miss K, who has been behind the scenes, who has been the driving force behind getting these things edited. If you've been enjoying all the interaction there that's on Patreon and all the new contests and everything else, that's all Miss K. She has single-handedly breathed new life into the channel, and I cannot thank her enough. And I'm gonna tell you, in a month's time, and again, we're just over 4 weeks from having decided to restart this channel. We are now at levels in a month where the highest point that I ever had in YouTube history. We are now just a little bit shy of that high watermark. So it is really incredible stuff, and it's only growing. So I can't imagine where we are now when you're watching this in the 1st of December. So, guys, I have to say, YouTube was awesome to me. When I had nothing else to do, when I was broke, I got a chance to film, and the community that grew up around what we filmed was incredible. And when we got back out to do this, I want to make an absolute point here, is that we were able to restart this channel because you guys had never left. When we started posting again, names I have known for 10 years started popping up. So I cannot tell you how particularly honored I am to have the loyalty of such people. Thank you guys so very much for sticking with me. I have to admit, when I got the chance to go to Forge and Fire, that turned out how it did. My feelings on reality TV. God, boy, that was a tough one. We got to do Master of Arms, and a second and third season would have meant retirement for me, and that didn't happen. That's a tough one. When we were pushing Black Iron, I actually got to have a sit down with an executive from Discovery for Black Iron, and they said meh. So the fact of the matter is, over the years, I've had far more failures than successes, but here we are again. And arguably now, even here in July, I'm in a better place than I have ever been in my life. And I am really excited to be back in front of the camera, to be back with you guys where I started with. And I just cannot thank you enough. And I know I'm going to watch this video come December, because, it's still 4 or 5 months away from me. I just cannot wait to see where we are by that time. And all of this has been made possible by you guys that have been with me for so long. I'm sure we're going to be adding new people, but you folks that have been out there have supported me so generously. It's hard not to get choked up about it. But I just want to take a moment here at this 1 month point to say how grateful I am. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you have been enjoying these videos over these past couple months, and I cannot wait for next year. You guys be good, and I'll see you then.